Hi everyone, Plastic EP here coming in from the future. That's right. How are you today, Leslie?
I'm good. I'm glad you're back from the future. Good, thank you.
You know, I'm one day in advance. Now, I want to talk about your fabulous books. You got two versions. Let's go through that.
Okay, so for those who want the English version, there you go. And all you people in Spain and South America, there we go again. If you want it together, I'll send you the Spanish version, Mr. EP.
Thank you. I've got the English one. I'll brush up on my Spanish. But you've got to
to
sign
the
the book,
Spanish one.
Leslie. You've got to sign the book.
The book's signed, don't
Now
worry.
listen, where do they get the book from? Can you tell me all the links, please?
Yeah, you can get it from my website, www.beatleshairdresser.com, or message me on Messenger on Facebook, or get it from the Beatles bookstore, which our good friend David Bedford organises, and they can get it through that one. So they go on Twitter, I think it's Beatles Store 1. But check it out, the Beatles bookstore. And
That's
they're going to sign
fantastic.
a copy if they get it through me, or through the Beatles bookstore.
Do you remember that TV show from the 60s, The Invaders?
No, but
Okay.
I've heard of it. I have heard of it, didn't see it.
I want you to look in my eyes for a minute.
Yeah. Those eyes are very deep. Deep. Come to me, Ed. Come.
Hey, do I need a haircut or not while I'm in the future?
Yeah, your hair's looking good. You've done your hair especially for today's interview. Thank you for doing it.
Thank you. Now, you've been busy, haven't you? You've been a busy boy.
I've been very busy this weekend. I should have been in Chicago, but obviously through the lockdown, they've done a virtual Beatle Festival. I wasn't sure how it was going to go. They got a lot of people from the Supremes, Mary Wilson from the Supremes, Donovan, Billy J and people, how they were going to do it from all over the world. Anyway, it worked. On Friday, I had a great thing. We had the Magical Mystery Tour room, which I met again my lovely little baby Nicola, Nikki Hale, who's the girl that when John Lennon said he was the walrus, so he goes, I am the walrus, and little Nikki goes, oh no, you're not. I met her in Chicago 2 years ago, and we met up on Friday, and we were talking for an hour and a half with the lovely Mark Lewison doing the inter-round commentary. Eddie's facts that we were sort of stuck on, relying good on Mark Lewison. So yeah, that was a great interview. It was lovely to see her and other people.
How old is she now?
Nikki is 53 or 54. But,
Okay, we don't discuss people's ages, but just a guess.
Oh, we don't mind.
Because it's a long way. It's a long way from the Magical Mystery Tour to the virtual Beatle Fest, isn't it?
It is, but isn't it? So you talk about space invaders, the invaders. Who would have thought this? That the whole thing would have been cancelled, and now we're even talking to you. Look at you and me. So
Now, I've got to ask you a question. Since you mentioned it, what's the most interesting question somebody asked you at that fest?
The most interesting question was, what was it like being on the bus? And also, what was it like when the coach got stuck going to Widdicombe Fair? So they got stuck on the Huddle Bridge.
Yeah, but didn't I already ask you those two questions? 2 shows ago?
They asked me those questions. I was given stories that happened. Actually, the main thing they all wanted to know a little bit how Nikki said those words and how she remembered them. And you know, she was 5 years old at the time, so yeah, it was just interesting. You've got to remember as well, I think I told you last week, there weren't many people, there's not that many people left to tell the story, how it was. And there's a lot of people who are still interested in the Magical Mystery Tour, and we're there to tell the story. People asking, you know, just general questions. What was it like with the Beatles being around? What was Lennon like? What was the whole mood like? And yeah, it was a good interview.
Here's a hypothetical question for you, all right? You ready?
Ready.
Okay. You're on the Magical Mystery Tour, and anything goes, correct?
If you say so, yep.
How many wheels do you reckon the bus had? How many tyres?
Ooh, now you're talking. I'm a hairdresser, not a mechanic.
All right, let's say, for example, and I'll take a guess,
Good.
that the bus had, let's say, 12 wheels. Okay. Now, if the bus had got a flat tyre, who do you think would have had to get out of the coach to change the tyre if the bus driver needed help?
Well, let's put it this way. He had a choice of one of four Beatles. So
No,
who would have been in
I
the
don't think
front?
they would have done it.
Why not? John Lennon got out of the car and out of the coach when the bus got stuck on the bridge, went nuts.
Okay.
So while he was out there, why not fix a wheel? Fixing a wheel.
So do you
Who
know
do you
when
think?
John was helping you we're helping the bus driver changing the tyre?
No, you need a director. So the director would have probably been Paul, and poor Alf on the driver's seat, if you really pushed it, would have had to do the bumping up of the tyres. Who would you think would have done it?
I don't know, would you have helped them?
Of course. Help. They will be singing, help, I need somebody, and here I am.
You weren't reading hairdressing magazines on the bus, were you?
No, not at all.
Okay.
No.
Were you reading a book?
No. Reading lots of other things.
What were you reading? What's the book you were reading at the time on the bus? You must have read a book.
I had no time to read a book. I was busy looking after Nikki.
Okay.
I was busy doing things. No one had time to read.
That's
It
fair
wasn't a
enough.
holiday.
I'm spaced out here at the moment, but just tell me. Tell me some fascinating stories that no one knows. Come on now. We've got
I'll tell you a great little story. I'll tell you a story that happened to me. I get a phone call from the press office, again from Derek Taylor. He seems to be the instigator of all these things I had to do. And George Harrison was having his tonsils out. It happened in 1969. I know everyone knows about Ringo having his tonsils out, but George Harrison was at the London University Hospital in February 1969. It was a bit of a secret, but you can't really keep secrets from the press. So I was asked to go up there and, believe it or not, do George's hair, blow dry George's hair. He was obviously very bored. And one of the instructions I had was that when I get there, the press will be asking, can you give me some information on George? Whatever you do, don't say anything. So there I go along with my carpet bag, my comb and scissors, the hairdryer. I arrive at the front door of the hospital, lots of press outside. I managed to walk through them, and Derek said to me, whatever happens when you come out, don't say anything. Please don't say anything. I said, okay. So I go upstairs, and there was George. I'll show you a picture. Anyone can see that? There's lovely poor George in his hospital bed.
I see it. And Ringo had
His hair looks nice.
Ringo had his tonsils out in 1964. So that's 5 years difference.
That was Ringo.
Yeah, that was Ringo in 64.
Yeah, this was 69.
That's right, 5 years difference.
Yeah, but you do it every 5 years. You've got to have your tonsils out every 5 years. So that's how. Anyway, one of the things I've always wanted to do, you see all these famous people come out of restaurants or premieres or political meetings, and they go up and they say, hi, could you give me some info on something? So when I was coming down the stairs, they said, Leslie, could you tell us, how is George? Do you think he'd be able to sing again? What did you do there? And I did my famous, always wanted to do it. I just went, no comment. And that was it, no comment. I just walked away and I just loved it. So, yeah, that was a nice little unexpected thing. Why did George want to have his hair done? I found out recently from Chris O'Dell, because she also went up there, George was bored. It's boring up there, he can't talk. So he wanted to see people. And again, having your hair washed and blow dried gets you by another hour of the day. So that was a good little story I liked.
Do you remember what he was telling you while you were cutting the hair?
He didn't say anything. He couldn't talk.
Oh, sorry.
Couldn't talk.
I
did the talking. I did the talking.
That is funny, isn't it? When he's having his tonsils out, what did he say to you? Was Paddy there?
No, no one was there. No, it was just one of those situations. I went there and it was just strange. There was George Harrison sitting there. People were worried at the time that maybe he couldn't sing again. So
can I ask you? All right, we'll change subject now. We'll change tack. Did you take Martha for a walk sometimes around Paul's house around the block with your dog?
No, we played in the garden. My lovely dog Ernie, that my book is dedicated to, used to play with Martha in the garden. But God knows what they got up to. He's a bit of a groupie dog anyway, so no, we didn't go for actual walks.
Any other stories? We're waiting for something that no one knows in the world.
Oh, loads of stuff. But I'll tell you a little story. We're talking about, the cars of the Beatles.
Yes, please.
Now, when I was when we opened up Apple Tailoring, what do I see outside? What does John Criddle say? Come on, let's go for a little run up the King's Road. I didn't know what he was talking about. But outside was this really beautiful, known as the Beatles Bentley. You see that?
Yep.
Beautiful, beautiful. It had purple leather seats, not bad to start with. But just to finish it off, a pink rug inside on the floor. So what I found out after a while, we had the use of this car, and John used to just take any people like Brian Jones and Hendrix in the car. They used to go up and down the King's Road, up to Sloane Square and back. I wonder why. What makes you think they would do that, Mr. EP? I tell you why. Because anybody that sees a Rolls Royce, this has this not even a Rolls Royce size. It was a Bentley. You have the windows wound down, brightly coloured, very nice. A lot of people get attracted to Bentleys. So that was an eye-opener for a start, and we had use of that. I used to go to that quite a lot with John, and we just use it. It was originally owned by the Countess of Middleton. I think it was John had it, and then it became part of the Apple cars that they all had. And it was just one of those situations. It was painted by a guy that did George's Mini, which was often seen around. I'll show you. There's George's Mini.
That's his Mini, is it?
Yeah, that's a little Mini. Quite subtle. You wouldn't know. You wouldn't see that around, would you?
No, but he used to have a James Bond car. He used to have an Aston Martin.
Wait your turn. Wait, we've got to move on to that. These Minis they were Mini Coopers, and they were given. Brian Epstein gave all the Beatles Mini Coopers, so they all had them, and George decided to have a psychedelic one, so that was great. Getting on to your little Aston Martins. Now, the one man that loved his Aston Martin, who was that?
Paul McCartney.
No, you got it wrong. It's James Bond, isn't it? We talked about James Bond.
That's what I said, James Bond. But
Correct.
Paul had an Aston Martin and George had an Aston Martin.
Okay, well, we'll go for this one. So when I went to Paul McCartney's house in Cavendish Avenue, when I went through the gates, the first thing I saw, I told you, was a green Aston Martin. That's the one I saw. There's Paul with his dandy fashioned Apple tailoring clothes on, standing by his green Aston Martin. Amazing car, amazing. It's, I never knew anybody that had an Aston Martin. I didn't. I just thought they were in the movies. James Bond. No one drove around Aston Martin, and you suddenly see McCartney. McCartney also had one. He bought that one in 1966, but he had a silver. I understand a DB4. That green one was a DB6, but he had a DB4 silver one that he bought in 1964. So, these guys did like to, spend their money on cars. You've got an amazing car that I remember seeing a lot around. It's a classic. It's Ringo's Facial Vega car.
Yeah, they're rare, aren't they?
Oh, they're so rare. And I remember Ringo, taking that car and just driving around. 1964 Facial Vega. You didn't see these cars. You saw them in America. You saw American cars. This was a big car when you're driving around London.
That's an Italian car, isn't it?
I think it is, yeah.
And what happens? When did you go in that car? What year?
That would have been, I didn't go in that particular car, but I used to see it around. And Ringo used to drive it, or his chauffeur would drive it, or it would be outside. Not so much the early days at Savile Row, but it was when they had the Apple offices in Wigmore Street before they moved. So you couldn't really miss a car like that, Who drove a car like that? But you couldn't miss this car, could you?
No.
You got the old famous John Lennon Rolls Royce. That was part of John being a rebel. You know, today, if you have a Rolls Royce, they don't sort of, and it breaks down. You don't actually see it being towed away. So I understand, and I'm not an owner of one. You ring up the breakdown service at Rolls Royce, they come along and they put a sheet over it. So when it's being towed away, no one, otherwise it looks bad, doesn't it? A Rolls Royce being towed away looks like, you know, Rolls Royces don't break down. So it's a very prestigious car. You have a Rolls Royce, John just went berserk. He just said, do you know what? Let me do what I like. I can afford to buy a Rolls Royce. I can do what I like. So that was nice. I didn't see much of that, but I saw.
Coming from Australia, I'm just saying, you can understand the British aristocracy there, right? You had the stock market belt, they had Rolls Royces, but they didn't paint them that colour. So basically, if you really wanted to flash your money or stick it up the establishment, you'd paint your car that colour, wouldn't you?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, the Beatles as well, you know, used to, you know, the Rolls Royces, and this is again John's, but it was shared amongst all the Beatles themselves. But it's, you know, it's the white Rolls Royce he had. You know, who drives white Rolls Royces today, or whatever? If you go to a wedding, but you know, there's the Beatles, you know, and it happens to be the White Album, all around the same time. So, Beatles had a lot of cars in their own possession, but they own so many more. You know, George's good friend was a guy later on, Damien Hill, world champion, Formula One champion. His father was Graham Hill, also a double world champion. And if you look at pictures of Damien Hill and George Harrison, they look like brothers. They really do. So George, you know, was used to go driving a lot with Damien. So George was into Porsches and Mercs and, you know, Ferraris. They had E-Type Jags, and Ringo they were all playing around with really lovely cars. And I think
but they were on top of the world. But also got to tell you, John Lennon had a blue Ferrari. Do you remember that car?
Yes, I don't remember it, but you're absolutely right. He had a blue Ferrari. He had it was a 330 GT. I'm not into too much of the cars, but I do know the cars that they drove around in, because it's something it's nice to know. It was just nice to know.
The Beatles were on top of the world. I mean, they still are on top of the world. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Their status while their career was going and after their career. So what happens is, you're in the UK in the 60s. James Bond is the biggest icon in the world with the Beatles. They're into the James Bond cars. They're into the spy scene, because the mania was the Beatles and also the spy James Bond. So one goes hand in hand. Those guys wanted to drive the Aston Martins. It makes sense. No one asked you. I know how you told me once you went and picked up Paul from his house and you've done things like that. But can you think of an occasion where you're walking down the street or in London or something and one of the Beatles pulls up in one of the cars and says, Leslie, do you want a lift? That ever happened to you without you knowing? They just rocked up?
No, that didn't happen. That actually didn't happen at all. The only time something nearly that happened, I remember Lennon's chauffeur used to drive down in the Rolls, and we used to go out in his Rolls while John was at meetings. I used to cut the hair of a lot of the chauffeurs. One of the things is when I first left the girls, I was out of work for I think about 3-4 weeks or whatever it is. I had to sign on at the exchange. I've only done it once in my life, and I used to do Barry Gibbs of the Bee Gees chauffeur's hair, and I can remember being taken down to the sort of the exchange. He said, come on, I'll run you down there in the Rolls Royce. So I used to go there, but I used to say to him, do me a favour, drop me on the corner. There's no way I can turn up there. So no, none of the Bee Gees or Beatles or anybody else stopped them, pulled the window down and said, come on, Les, jump in. But as you said, I took Paul McCartney out, a situation when he broke up with Jane. He was going out, it was well documented. He was going out with an American lady called Frankie Schwartz.
Yeah.
he was with her for a while. She was living at his home, and he hadn't been out. And I get a message from someone saying Paul wants to go to a nightclub, which I didn't think he did that. But he'd been a bit sort of into himself at his home. And I went round and I had a black Mini. I went round with a friend of mine called Chris O'Dell. We turned up at the front gates there, and the Mini I had, it wasn't a wind-down window. The early Minis were sliding windows, darkened windows. Paul got in the car with Frankie Schwartz in the back, and we drive to the Arathusa Club, the one that we had the party at for Apple, and they had a nightclub downstairs. I drive up in the King's Road. I got Paul McCartney in the back, and I slid the window open. I said to the doorman, I said, could you do me a favour? I've got Paul McCartney in the back here. Could you sort of, I just want to open up and let him out. Now, I didn't have a forward door. It was a two-seater car. So I would have had to have got out the car, or the passenger would have had to get out the car to let him out.
Yeah.
And when I did that, the guy said, oh yeah, mate, you've got Paul McCartney at the back. I said, I have. And with that, Paul's put his face down and went, hello. And the guy was taken back. We opened the door, they parked the car for us, and we just walked in, the four of us, downstairs to the basement. We sat down and we ordered the drinks. No one sort of bothered him. It was a place where a lot of celebrities went to. But that was the only occasion. I was actually McCartney's chauffeur for the night.
See, there's a story there. You even knew Frances Schwartz. That's her name?
Schwartz. Frankie Schwartz.
Frankie
from
Schwartz.
New York. From New York.
You're a man that gets around to amazing places. That's a story and a half.
Yeah, that was a good little story. I quite like that story.
That's fascinating. What else did you do? Did Paul ever ring you up and say, listen, while you're coming to give me a haircut, can you go and do a message or something? Pick up the local paper or water and milk or something?
I was his hairdresser.
Yeah, I know, but listen, when you get to that status, you can't go through it every day.
He doesn't say to me, Les, you're coming around, Les, cutting my hair, pick me up the Daily Mail, pick me up the Daily Express. I would have actually, why not?
I would have done it.
I would have, yeah. I would
have asked you to get me a newspaper, no worries. Did you normally talk in the newspaper? Did you talk about like the pools, or did you talk about the soccer, or did you talk about you got that fantastic photo, as you said, where you're looking at the newspaper, the Magical Mystery Tour. What did you guys used to talk about in the paper?
Well, one of the things is that they're getting publicity all over the place. So on that particular paper, I've looked at it really closely. That I would never have talked to Paul about, football results because he wasn't that interested. It probably was a picture in the paper that we were looking at, or whatever. Why he was showing that to me as I was coming out the coach, I can't remember, but it was enough for him to say to me, Leslie, look at this. I could make up something and say we were looking at whatever. I can't remember what it was, but it was enough for him to say, Leslie, come and look at this. So I did. And it was
lucky someone took a photo while you're looking at the paper with Paul.
There were people taking photos, even when you didn't know they were taking photos. As I said to you, a Beatles' life was totally scrutinised. Every single thing they did was analysed. You're only going to look today. I see pictures today of the Beatles and the individual ones, and I think, my God, I haven't seen them. I've seen a lot of Beatle photographs. So people took photographs all the time, and it's actually quite interesting. I've seen pictures of Lennon sort of going through a situation of cutting Paul's hair, which is quite a famous picture. They did it at the TV studio. But they're all little things, they're all quirks. Ringo actually wanted to have loads of hairdressing salons when he became famous and rich and retired.
Did he open some? He didn't, did he?
No. He didn't open something. No. There were lots of little things that were going on at the time, and just to be part of it was amazing. But you keep probing away there, and little stories will come out. But going on the magic, doing Ringo's hair on the Magic Christian was a fascinating.
How was that? You know who was in that? The Magic Christian. That's the one where they got the boat and they got those famous women with the oars, isn't it?
I think so. Yes, but
and
besides,
you know who's starred in that?
Well, you know, you say people have the Beatles. You know, I had a few Beatles. I didn't have any Beatles photographs on my wall, but I did have a picture of one film star called Rachel Welch.
Yeah,
and,
but she's. Have you got a photo with her together?
Well, she was starring in the film with Peter Sellers.
That's right.
So Peter Sellers, Ringo Starr, and Rachel Welch. I spent a week there, and it was. I couldn't take my eyes off you, baby. It was, yeah, she was as beautiful in real life as she was on the posters.
So have you got a photo with her together and Ringo?
No, I hadn't. No. I told you I wasn't allowed to go on the film sets because I wasn't part of equity.
You know why? So you saw the way she's dressed in that outfit with a whip, and there's a photo of her and Ringo on the side.
Absolutely. Wouldn't every man like to be him?
I got no comment. I was just saying, she's.
No, I know you don't like that. You're not into that. I've got something else. This is an interesting little story. When things happen and you've got no idea. I told you I used to go to McCartney's house, cut his hair in his front room. I was cutting Linda's hair, and I was sitting on the couch talking to Paul, obviously about music or whatever. And when I was about to go, little Heather, his little stepdaughter, Linda's daughter, drew me this. And it says, I don't know if you can see that, but I'll read it to you. It said, "This is a princess, love to Leslie, Heather McCartney." And she
I love that. You should frame that. That's the original.
I've got the original upstairs.
Okay, that's all right, but you framed it?
In case someone steals it. Which is good.
You're not framing it, or it's hidden somewhere?
No, I've got it, so I've got it in my little memorabilia book. So when people come on a tour with me or they want to meet up with me, one of the perks is I'll show you a lot of memorabilia stuff that that people haven't got.
I'll tell you what, Leslie, when I come to London, we're going to meet up and we're going to have dinner on me, okay? I mean that.
That's okay. That's very nice of you. Thank you.
Get a free haircut.
I'll give you the order now. But you're going to be locked down for a long time.
Hey, did you want to see? And I'll get a free haircut. Did you like that one?
You can have a free haircut with pleasure. With pleasure.
From the famous Leslie Cavendish, hairdresser to the stars. And you know what? All I want to say is I love these talks. I love it. Have you got a little small story about John you can just share?
I think I told you, I don't want to repeat myself regarding John going bald. John being teased on the Magical Mystery Bus by little Nicky taking the feather out. Watching John at the recording studio at Abbey Road. I'll tell you a little story that happened. Now you eased it out of me, but it's quite normal. The Beatles used to also rehearse and record at a place called Trident Studios. It's in the heart of Soho, a place called, in a little sort of alleyway called St. Anne's Court. I remember going down there. As I said, the Beatles recorded late at night, or they rehearsed late at night. I went down there on one occasion, and there, John was sitting on the floor in the corner with Yoko stroking his hair, which was quite strange, really, because not that she was stroking his hair, is that she was there. I think one of the unwritten rules of the Beatles sessions was, you know, ladies weren't there. They may have, they didn't go to the recording session, or if they did, maybe they went upstairs to the, you know, where George Martin was, or whatever. But Trident Studio is actually tiny. So while she is stroking his hair, Paul is at the piano, and he's just playing a few chords there. I'm sitting on the floor. George Harrison walks by. We're talking about now 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning. And he just said, you know, does anyone want a cup of tea? And Paul said yes. I said yes. So you asked me if I got Paul McCartney's newspaper, and George Harrison made me a cup of tea. And again, I told him no sugar.
Unbelievable. You know, the stories you come up with, I can't wait till next time. All I want to say is, Leslie, it's been fascinating. So,
thank you.
from
Thank you
Plastic
very much.
EP, and
Leslie Cavendish.
make sure you go out and buy his book, because I tell you what, now there's 2 versions. You can make up your mind which one you want, because they're
You can
both
take it.
great.
There
Let's
you
have a
go. A
look.
signed copy of the Cutting Edge special edition. I will tell you, I'll write whatever you like in there. But yeah, please do. And thanks again, Plastic EP.
Leslie, can I have a look at the other book in the language? What's the other language?
The other one is in Spanish. There you go.
Fantastic. All right, from everybody, make sure go out and buy that. And that's available from
Leslie Cavendish. www.BeatlesHairdresser.com. Messenger, Facebook.
send him a card as well. A hello from everybody. See ya.
Take care. Bye.